In this lesson, I want to explain sweep tool. It's here. The sweep tool is very interesting and it has lots of setting. And like here, we have a long tutorial for sweep now. I want to explain all of its settings one by one in detail. For explaining sweep, I will draw a spline here as a rail, for example. That's enough. This is my rail, and I have to now insert a profile for railing. Going to model mode and change it. Oh, this axis is enabled. Changing the position and the scale. Sweep tool. Sweep this profile, this shape, align the rail. And you have to be sure that the axis of this profile is perpendicular to the sweep. I will tell you what happens if it's not happen like that. This is sweep, and these two spline have to be child of the sweep. First, the hierarchy and the order of this spline is very important. First, the spline that has to be child of the sweep have to be its profile. Click and drag and make a child. And the second sweep is rail. Sweep, act like this. Sweep this profile, rail, and anything that you want, align the rail. And after that, you can come back and change any parameter. Turn off the work plane. Any parameter in its spline. For example, make it ring, as you can see, or come back to the spline and change the rail. Turn the sweep off, going to the point mode, grab this point, turn it on, going to move, and you can change the rail like this. To changing anywhere that you want. Okay? But the plane, this is the plane mode, X, Y, Z. These are the all about the axis of the profile is very important. If you change plane, you face the like these issues. If you sweep something and you see this problem, you have to change the plane of your parametric spline. But you can, if you click on this circle, and then this is a parametric sweep, parametric spline, sorry, you cannot see that in a viewport. For seeing your profile, you have to make it editable. And if you make it editable, we have not plane changing anymore. Okay? And for making the sweep, it does not important how looks it yet. You have to change the axis of that. Okay? For changing the axis, going to the model mode, and this is our axis, as you can see. For changing the axis, if you rotate it, it does not correct your work. You have to change the axis. Pay attention. For changing the axis, like the previous lessons, you have to enable the axis and make sure its axis perpendicular to the rail. Or you can change it to make it correct. For example, I rotate it like this, and you can see it can to completely perpendicular to that, and it's correct. So going back to the point, as you can see, its rotation does not change, but its axis change to perpendicular to the rail. Okay? And you can rotate it like this. This is important that you have to change the axis of that. Okay, enable axis off, and that's it. You can turn it off. And this is my profile, and you can going back and change a profile point. As you can see, you can change it any shape that you want. That's interesting. Okay. This is important about the sweep. The Isoparm subdivision, as I said before, you have to turn display an Isoparm arm. The Isoparm arm, the lines that this surface made with them, we can change density of them. Going back to wireframe, as you can see in its settings, we have not a setting for changing the resolution of the sweep. For changing the resolution of the sweep or subdivision of the sweep, you have to change the intermediate points of spline. I explained intermediate points in the previous lesson. You can refer to them. For example, changing the intermediate point of the profile to subdivided. As you can see, we have more dense polygon here. You can change it to the uniform and change the number of that. You can change the subdivision in this direction. If you want to make more subdivision in line, or you have to change the subdivision intermediate point in the rail. Uniform, as you can see, and then we have a better form of sweep, and you can change it. So for changing the quality of the 3D shape of the sweep, you have to change intermediate point of the child sweep of the child spline of sweep. Okay, you can change the end scale of the sweep. Where is the end scale? The end scale of the sweep is end of the rail. Turn it off, select the spline, and as you can see, this is the end. The blue color is the end of the spline, and the white color is beginning of it. So the end scale is here of the sweep. Going back to sweep setting, and you can change the end scale like this. And you can change the end rotation if you want to. For example, I want to change the profile of the sweep now. You can simply insert, for example, flower to showing you end rotation. Scale it down, and I replace it. Click and drag it and release it from the sweep, and bring the flower child of the sweep at the hierarchy, the first hierarchy here. As you can see, I replaced the profile on this rail. Very beautiful. I'm going back to the sweep, and I want to show you end rotation. As you can see, it's here. Simply you can rotate the end in any direction that you want. And you can animate the end or start grow. For example, end grow. As you can see, you can make animation like this with sweeps. Interesting. It's very useful for motion graphic. This is end grow. That's it. Okay. These are very important setting of the sweep, and I explain one by one. Parallel movement. We'll look at this sweep at the top angle and change the spline to down to see. It's very bad. Sorry. Flower. Make it editable, for example, and make it adaptive. I want to see the flower. I want to see reduce the subdivision point to make it better. Going to, but I pause a second. Okay, I bring back the circle, and I can see it better here. Now in a rail, in a natural. Okay, here, for example, here, as you can see, in this rotation, for example, you can change the rotation here. We have a rotation here, and as you can see, if the parallel movement is turned off, when we rotate in a rail, and as you can see, the polygon will be rotated with this direction. If you tick the parallel movement on, as you can see, all of the polygon will be parallel with each other. All of this line, that are the subdivided are parallel to each other and cause this shape like here. We can turn it off or down to off or on to see what happened. All of the polygon will be parallel with each other. This is parallel movement. I want to explain constant cross section with this example. I bring another spline, for example, this star, bring it here, make it bigger, and bring a circle here, make it smaller, bring it here, and I want to delete this flower. I want to bring another sweep here. I want to sweep this circle along this rail, that this is star, and you can see you can make sweep like this. In a setting, in a default, constant cross section is ticked, is activated. It means we have a circle here. As you can see, we have a circle as a profile. The diameter of the circle is fixed or constant in these corners and cause this effect. If you deactivate it, as you can see, the sweep acts different, and here we have a different diameter of circle here and cause this effect. Turn it off or down, you can see that. This option constant or fix the diameter of the circle, that is the profile, along the star, that is a rail. You can change it to see the difference. Another option is banking. For explaining that, I use another sweep, helix. I use a helix as a rail, make it bigger, and use a profile, for example, foresight as a profile. Move it here and make it editable. Okay, make it editable. A little like this. Okay, I use another sweep. I want to sweep this foresight as a profile and this helix as rail. Bring it to this spline under the sweep, and it's create our sweep here. As you can see, the default in the software on this turning, everything will be correct. If you the banking is turned on by default and making everything correct when you are rotating. If you untick the banking, as you can see, we have a problem here in the rotation. The software does not recognize the rotation correctly and cause these effects in a rotation. As you can see, we have a helix here that comes here and rotate in these angles, and the software correct the banking rotation for you by default. You tick that and everything will be correct. This is banking. Constant cross section, banking, and all of the settings are turned on by default. Okay, keep segment. For explaining that, I'm reduce the subdivision of that spline. I want to explain it with end grow. No, we're changing the start grow like this. Okay, like this. Here. Okay, going back to the foresight or helix. Make them you can change it, made intermediate to uniform. No, I want to helix intermediate point to uniform, make it smaller. I want to show you segment here. Okay, going back to sweep here. And I want to say make you first animation here for explaining the keep segment. Okay, for creating our animation, bring it to the 100, and here you can click here for keyframing it. Here in the timeline we are in the 0 and keyframe it once. And for example, bring the timeline to this frame and increase it, reduce that number and grow to act like this. And again, click here to make keyframe. And we have an animation here, a simple animation. I make a simple animation. Click and drag the frame here to more smoother animation. I will be teach you animation in the next lesson. Don't worry, just know if you have more frame, you have a smoother animation. You can play it. Okay. As you can see, for example, we have a segment here. We have a several segment here. And this animation is smooth. As you can see here, smooth, changing the travel through the segment here. But if you tick the keep segment, what happened? It animation will be create a segment like this. It does not through, for example, half of segment. It creates segment step by step. It acts like this. Play it, tick, 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 tick. It's a close. If you untick that, the animation is smoother. Play it. And it does not concern the all lengths of the segment. You can see. This is all about the keep segment. Okay, use rail direction and to rail, and use rail scale is for making, for example, a special sweep that has two profile. I will explain you. First, I want to teach you a stick UV. Okay. And that this is my animation. I want to make a texture for that. Simple, going material editor, click on it and click and drag a material and sweep and double click. I will teach you material editor in the next lessons. Don't worry, in detail we have lots of sitting here. Going to the texture and in the surface, going to make a checkerboard for that. Okay, close that. And if the stick UV is untick, as you can see, we have an I want to delete this animation. You can simply delete this keyframe, going back to the sweep and make it like this. As you can see, I have a texture that goes along the sweep, and it's, for example, this checker here is stretched. But if you stick UV, activate a stick UV, as you can see here, stick UV, the UVs and the texture will be correct here. And if you, as you can see, if you changing the start growth, the texture will be a stick on that, the UV is stick on the sweep, and we will be a stretch along the start growth. As you can see, it acts like this. But if you untick that, it does not concern the stick UV. It seems to be the UV will be sticks on all of the sweep as before, and you can just change the growth on it. But if you tick the sticks, act like this. This is very important for texturing the sweep when you have a texture in a motion graphic, and you can change your plan with the stick UVs. Okay, for explaining these three options, I bring another thing here. I pause. No, I bring it here. It's very easy. I make a drawing with a spline, for example, a line. Here we have two profile, and create a new spline and create a new profile. Here it does not important which one is. Okay, we have two profile here. We have two profile here, and I want a rectangle. We have two rails, sorry, here, and I want this rectangle going to here. Sweep as a profile of along these two rails. Going to the rectangle, changing its heights and widths like this, and simply bringing another sweep, and I want this rectangle as a profile with holding a control and select all of this spline, make a child of the sweep, but under the rectangle we have two rail. Simply doing that. Okay. If we have a problem with this, you have to pay attention to the beginning and the end of this sweep. Turn it off, go into the point mode, and as you can see, something happened here. This is the beginning. All the beginning of the two rail have to be in the same direction. This is the beginning of this rail, and this is the beginning of this. They are opposite of them. So select this, for example, spline. As I said before, the right click, point order, reverse that. Select two of them, and as you can see, the beginning of both of them are in the same direction, and turn it on, and we have our sweep. For seeing the rectangle, make it editable, and you can see it. What happened here? This profile goes along these two rails with the sweep tool. Interesting. So as you can see, we have three spline here in a high, and the first sweep is the rail, and the other two spline are rail. Okay, because of that, if you turn one of this option turn off, we have cause issue. As you can see, we need two rail. For example, two rail, if this option is turned on, try to keep this profile along to this rail. As you can see, it's very important. And use two rail scale. It's very important. It's for example, if you turn it off, it try to maintain the scale of the profile. But if you turn on, use the scale rail, it try to make the profile between two rails. This option will be happen here. Use rail direction. For example, when I click one of this rail here and change the direction of that like this, as you can see, it's use the rail direction. You turn it off, make it this. So these are options. These options have to be turned on always. This is very important. Okay. Going to the important and interesting option in a detail, you can change the scale or rotation of the sweep along it. Okay, we delete all sweep and make another. Okay, here I have a rail, a straight line, and a flower as a profile. And I have a sweep. I make a child from first flower as a profile, and then after the flower under the sweep, rail, and make this. Turn grout shading now. Okay, I have this. Going to the sweep setting and the scale. These are graph window that I will be explain for you all of the settings, but from now you can right click on it and show in a separate window for more room to work. Okay. You can change the scale of the sweep along its length. What we have in this window? From 0 to 1 means from 0 to end of the length of the sweep. For example, 100, 200, any length that it has. And this axis, that y is from 0 to 1, means a scale from, for example, 0 to what diameter of this flower is. Any number, that one. And this line means you can click and drag it and change the radius of the sweep that here. You can click and drag and change the position of this. Okay, turn it like this. So as you can see, we make it like here. This is beginning of the spline, and here is the beginning of the spline. This is end of the spline. What does this mean? This means in a 0 and the 0 point, the 0 length of the spline, we have the diameter, 0 diameter of the sweep. You can even change any shape that you want. Okay, we bring it up. For example, going to half of the diameter of the spline. And here we are in the beginning of the spline. We have, for example, half of the diameter of the flower or any profile. So this axis is a diameter of profile. Can be flower, circle, anything that you want. Okay, or simply you can hold Control and click and change the. Okay, why does not change? Because we have not enough subdivision here. As you can see, we have not subdivision in this direction. We have not enough subdivision in this direction because of that you cannot see this direction. Okay. For more for more subdivision in this line, we have to change the subdivision of the spline. Going to the spline, close it, going to a spline, and in intermediate point, turn it to subdivided. And as you can see, we have it. Bring it here, turn the graph shading, and now going back to sweep, right click, show in a separate. We have a lots of settings. I will teach you, don't worry, show in a separate. As you can see, this is our shape exactly on the object. You can do anything here. You can see, it's very interesting. You can make any shape with the curve and affect the object like this. It's very interesting. So this is beginning and this is the end. This is beginning and this is the end. You can simply change the radius of the flower. So this axis is the length, and this axis is diameter of the flower. That's it. You can load any preset here and you can download it and use them. You can save your preset here, naming, and okay, save it. Okay, you can right click on this and reset all and bring it up. What does it mean? It means in a beginning of the spline we have full diameter and constant to the end. You can change end diameter of the flower. Okay, this is a scale. And exactly like this, we have in a rotation. It's very interesting. For better understanding, make it 0 to 360. This is the range of the rotation. Does not affect here, but it's in settings. Right click, show in a separate window. And what we have here, you can change the rotation along the length of the, for example, sweep. You can make it here. As you can see, you can change the rotation from 0 to 360 like this. And you can rotate the flower from the beginning to the end. It rotates a full circle 360. And you can hit control click and change the rotation in between. You can change your spline here and make an interesting shape like this. This is beginning and this is the end of the sweep, and this axis is rotation. 0 means 0 degree, 1 means 360. Okay, that's very easy. So be sure that you have enough subdivided polygon for doing like this. Make it subdivided, or you can make it subdivided also to make better results. Okay, that's sweep setting and sweep tool. You can making interesting 3D model with the sweep tools.
Hello my friends, to continue these tutorials on YouTube, subscribe us, like us, and hit the bell icon. And now you will be alerted about all of the amazing videos that we release.